This is definitely the scariest movie I've ever seen. It is said that it is adapted from the top 10 forbidden horror books, and it made countless movie fans frightened at the beginning of its release. Timid friends do not recommend watching this film. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The story happened on the night of July 14th. Several people who were not afraid of death came to explore the 1,000-year-old haunted house late at night. Legend has it that this haunted house was once inhabited by the witch Sarah's family. One day, Sarah's family died suddenly and mysteriously. Everyone in the village believed that Sarah practiced witchcraft and killed the whole family. And Sarah also hanged in the room because she couldn't bear the public opinion. Since then, the house has become a haunted house. Anna usually likes to read some horror stories. Anna found an ancient book on the bookshelf which recorded all horror stories. They did not meet the legendary Sarah. After returning home, Anna couldn't wait to open the ancient book, and the protagonist in the ancient book turned out to be Anna's classmate Jack. At this time, Jack was carrying the eggs, ready to send them to his uncle's house. While passing a cornfield, Jack kicked the scarecrow. Jack hated the scarecrow very much. However, as he walked, he came to the place where the scarecrow was again. At first, he thought he had drunk too much and lost his way accidentally, but at this moment, the terrifying scarecrow came back to life. Jack ran away in fright, and Jack accidentally fell down, seeing that the scarecrow was about to chase him. Jack had no choice but to pick up the steel fork and stab it into the scarecrow's body. Jack tried his best to run out of the cornfield and wanted to call for help, but no matter how he shouted, he couldn't make a sound, because straw had already grown in his mouth, and it soon covered his whole body. The next day, when Anna came home from school, she found the scarecrow wearing Jack's clothes. The way of death happened to be exactly the same as the ending in the storybook. Anna was so frightened that she immediately put the book back in the old house, but when she got home, Anna found that Ramón Morales was holding the book in his hand. Anna snatched the book immediately, but at this time, a new story has begun to be written automatically, and the protagonist of this story is her best friend Sarah. Anna tried to tear a page out of the book, but still couldn't stop the weird story from continuing automatically. Meanwhile, Sarah is looking in the mirror in the toilet because she has a huge pustule growing on her face. She tried to squeeze it with her hands, but something seemed to be wriggling inside. What was even more strange was that another hair grew on the pustule at this time, and the hair was about to be pulled out immediately. But in the next second, countless spiders crawled out of it. Fortunately, Anna and the others arrived in time and poured a bucket of cold water on Sarah, which prevented the tragedy from happening. After this incident, Anna and the others knew that if things continued like this, a terrible story would happen to them sooner or later. In order to prevent the story from happening, several people are going to sneak into the file room to check the information about Sarah, but when they came to the door, Austin Zaire flinched. They had no choice but to act first. After entering the archives, the two immediately searched for Sarah's information, but at this moment, the book began a new story. The protagonist of this story is Austin Zaire. At this time, Austin Zaire suddenly found that the hospital had turned blood red, and this was the scene he often dreamed about recently. Austin Zaire was terrified and hardly looked for the exit, but at this moment, a pale-skinned monster suddenly appeared on the passage ahead. Just seeing those small eyes, Austin Zaire didn't dare to look directly at the other person, so he could only flee in a panic. But no matter where he ran, monsters would still appear in front of him. After a few tries, Austin Zaire was finally melted into his body by the monster. On the other side, Anna and the two have already found out all the truth. It turned out that Sarah's family had illegally discharged industrial waste, causing all the children in a school to fall ill and die in order to escape the crime. The family asked Sarah to take the crime, but Sarah refused to die, so they forced Sarah into a mental hospital. In the end, Sarah had to use witchcraft to destroy the family, but people in the world don't know the truth and think everything is Sarah's fault. After Anna and the two learned the truth, they brought the ancient book to the police station to report the case, but such absurd story, the police didn't believe it at all and put the two of them in the cell. But at this time, Sarah began to write a new story. At this time, the police didn't understand what happened. The lights in the police station suddenly went out, and then a head suddenly fell from the sky. The police were so scared that they raised their guns and shot. At this time, many broken limbs appeared in all directions. These limbs began to automatically converge into an ugly monster. Before the police could react, they were killed by the monster. Then, the monster came to the cell again, and the target of the monster was Ramón Morales. Seeing this, Anna quickly took the key from the policeman. At the moment when the monster was about to enter the cell, Anna quickly opened the iron door and escaped from the cell with Ramón Morales. Right now, the only way to end the story is for Sarah to stop writing the story. So the two started a separate operation. Ramón Morales is responsible for leading away the monster, while Anna goes to the old house to find Sarah. At this time, the monster also chased out from the police station. Ramón Morales was about to drive away when the monster jumped onto the roof of the car. Ramón Morales was forced to pull over on the side of the road. At the same time, Anna found Sarah in the old house. In order to prevent Sarah from writing stories to harm others, Anna had to promise Sarah that she would make public the torture she suffered and her family's evil deeds, and return Sarah's innocence. Then Anna wrote the truth into the storybook. And Sarah also let go of her resentment at this moment, turning into a wisp of green smoke and dissipating between heaven and earth. T this time. The monsters outside also disappeared together, and the story ends here.